The young and the restless spoilers' shock, the twin deception, Tessa's captivity and Mariah's peril. The sudden shift in Tessa's behavior had left everyone perplexed. How could someone so loving and compassionate turn into a figure of fear and hostility toward Mariah? The question hung heavily over Genoa City, with whispers of betrayal and deceit spreading like wildfire. But the truth, as it turned out, was far more sinister than anyone could have imagined. The hidden twin, a dark revelation. The woman everyone believed to be Tessa was, in fact, her twin sister, an identical sibling no one knew existed. Unlike Tessa, her twin was a dark and manipulative force, carrying a lifelong resentment toward her sister. Their history was fraught with jealousy and rivalry, and she had often blamed Tessa for all the misfortunes in her life. Ian Ward, a master manipulator himself, discovered the existence of Tessa's twin during one of his schemes. Recognizing an opportunity, he easily lured her into his orbit, exploiting her bitterness and turning her into a pawn in his game. Together, they hatched a plan. Tessa's twin would assume her identity, sow chaos, and destroy the relationships Tessa had built, especially with Mariah. Tessa's captivity. While her twin wreaked havoc, the real Tessa languished in a cold, damp basement. Ian had ensured her disappearance would go unnoticed, hiding her in a location so remote that no one could hear her cries for help. The room was sparsely furnished, with only a dim light bulb hanging from the ceiling and chains binding her wrists. Days turned into weeks, and Tessa's strength began to wane. She fought to stay hopeful, clinging to the thought that Mariah or someone else would eventually realize the truth. But the isolation was crushing, and every passing hour felt like an eternity. Mariah's danger. Meanwhile, Mariah was caught in a web of confusion and pain. The Tessa she interacted with seemed cold, distant, and even cruel at times. Their once unbreakable bond felt like it was crumbling, and Mariah couldn't understand why. What had she done to deserve such hatred? Unbeknownst to her, the twin was slowly setting her up for a devastating fall. Ian and the imposter worked together to create scenarios that would implicate Mariah in a crime, planting seeds of distrust and ensuring she would be isolated from everyone she cared about. Ian's plan was calculated and ruthless. If Mariah was removed from the equation, it would not only destroy her but also leave Tessa entirely alone, an outcome that suited Ian's twisted goals. Cracks in the facade, but secrets like these have a way of unraveling. The imposter, despite her best efforts, couldn't perfectly emulate Tessa's mannerisms and memories. Small inconsistencies began to surface. She forgot key details about her relationship with Mariah, reacted differently in familiar situations, and even exhibited skills and preferences that Tessa didn't have. Mariah, sharp and intuitive, started to notice these discrepancies. At first, she dismissed them, attributing the changes to stress or personal struggles. But as the differences became more glaring, suspicion crept in. Who was this person claiming to be Tessa? And where was the real Tessa? The truth emerges. The imposter's charade couldn't last forever. Mariah's growing mistrust led her to dig deeper, retracing Tessa's steps and questioning her recent behavior. A slip of the tongue or an unfamiliar reaction could be the key to exposing the truth, and Mariah was determined to find it. At the same time, Tessa, despite her dire circumstances, clung to the hope that Mariah would figure out what was happening. She knew Mariah's love for her was strong enough to see through any facade. Where is Tessa? The exact location of Tessa's captivity remained a closely guarded secret. Ian Ward, ever the meticulous planner, had chosen a site far from prying eyes. Rumors suggested it was an abandoned facility on the outskirts of Genoa City, hidden among dense woods and rarely traveled roads. The location was perfect for keeping someone out of sight and out of mind. But Ian had underestimated the lengths Mariah would go to for the truth. With her growing suspicions and a determination fueled by love, she was closing in. The imposter's mistakes, combined with Ian's overconfidence, would soon lead her to Tessa's whereabouts. A race against time. The clock was ticking. Tessa's life hung in the balance, and Mariah's safety was under threat. As the imposter's facade began to crumble, the stakes grew higher. Would Mariah uncover the truth before Ian and Tessa's twin could carry out their plans? And if she did, would she reach Tessa in time? One thing was certain: the secrets surrounding Tessa's captivity and her twin's betrayal were unraveling, and the revelation would change everything in Genoa City. The battle for justice, love, and redemption had only just begun. A web of betrayal, Tessa's rage, Ian's cruelty, and the twins' treachery. Tessa's screams echoed through the cold, unforgiving walls of the underground bunker. Her voice was hoarse from days of yelling, but her resolve remained unbroken. She lashed out in fury, her words sharp and filled with venom. "I'll kill you both. Ian, you and that pathetic excuse for a sister won't get away with this," she shouted, her chains rattling as she struggled against them. But her threats only drew mocking laughter from Ian and her twin. They were unmoved, their cruelty unyielding. Ian, ever the master manipulator, reveled in her helplessness. Her twin, embittered and consumed by jealousy, stood by his side, an accomplice in this dark conspiracy. Ian's sinister plan. Ian Ward was a man without a conscience, driven solely by power and control. His plan was as horrifying as it was calculated. He intended to eliminate both Tessa and Mariah, severing their ties to each other and the life they had built together. Once they were gone, he would take custody of Aria, the innocent child at the heart of this twisted scheme, and raise her as his own, a pawn in his ever-expanding game of domination. Tessa's twin was a willing participant in this nightmare, fueled by her own deep-seated resentment. She saw this as an opportunity to usurp Tessa's life entirely, to replace her and finally escape the shadow of her sister's perceived perfection. The twins' betrayal. The story of Tessa and her twin was one of stark contrasts. Growing up, Tessa had been the compassionate, talented, and beloved sibling, while her twin had struggled with feelings of inadequacy and neglect. These emotions festered over the years, turning into a toxic envy that Ian Ward expertly exploited. Ian discovered Tessa's twin during one of his schemes, realizing she harbored a bitter hatred for her sister. He played on her insecurities, whispering lies and promises that she could have everything she believed Tessa had stolen from her. To her, Ian wasn't just a manipulator, he was a savior offering her a chance to rewrite her life. Why did the twin betray her sister so completely? It was a combination of Ian's influence and her own misguided desire to claim a life she thought she deserved. In her twisted mind, Tessa had always been the favorite, the successful one, the sister who had everything handed to her. By aligning with Ian, the twin saw an opportunity to turn the tables, to become the better sister at last. Tessa's rage and desperation. Tessa, chained and weakened, could barely contain her fury. She had always believed in the power of love and understanding, but this betrayal cut deeper than anything she had ever faced. Her twin, the person who shared her face, her history, her blood, had turned against her in the cruelest way possible. "You'll never get away with this," Tessa spat, her voice trembling with anger. "Mariah will find me. She'll figure it out, and when she does, you'll both pay for what you've done." Ian smirked, leaning casually against the wall. "Mariah? The woman you're so desperate to save? She'll be dead soon, just like you. Aria will be ours, and there's nothing you can do to stop it." The words hit Tessa like a physical blow. Her desperation turned to despair, and she struggled against her restraints with renewed vigor, even though she knew the effort was futile. The bunker was a fortress, and she was too weak to escape on her own. Mariah's unseen danger. Meanwhile, Mariah remained blissfully unaware of the danger closing in around her. The imposter, pretending to be Tessa, continued to sow discord and manipulate those closest to her. Mariah sensed that something was wrong, but she couldn't put her finger on it. The person she thought was Tessa was colder, harsher, and more distant than ever before. Mariah's love for Tessa drove her to search for answers, but she was running out of time. Ian and the twins' plans were already in motion, and every moment she remained in the dark brought her closer to their trap. The fragile balance of power. Despite Ian's confidence, cracks were beginning to form in his alliance with Tessa's twin. The twin, though loyal to Ian for now, was unpredictable and emotionally volatile. She craved validation and control, but Ian's domineering nature often left her feeling used and discarded. It was only a matter of time before her resentment extended to him as well. This delicate balance of power was the weak link in Ian's plan. If Mariah could uncover the truth and exploit the growing tension between Ian and Tessa's twin, she might stand a chance at rescuing Tessa and exposing the horrifying plot. A glimmer of hope. Tessa's captivity was unbearable, and her anger fueled her determination to survive. Deep down, she clung to the hope that Mariah would see through the lies, that her love would guide her to the truth. Though Ian's plans were cruel and calculated, he had underestimated the strength of the bond between Tessa and Mariah. The clock was ticking, and the stakes couldn't be higher. Ian's cruelty, the twins' betrayal, and Mariah's peril all converged into a deadly game of survival and deception. The question remained, could love and justice prevail against the darkness, or would Ian and the twins succeed in tearing everything apart? For Tessa, escape seemed impossible. But as long as she drew breath, she would fight, for herself, for Mariah, and for the life they were meant to share.